Welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Alien Romulus. I know this one has been a long time coming for all of those Alien fans out there. Now, I have been watching the Alien franchise since I was a little kid. I am not old enough, sadly, to have seen any of the first ones in theaters, but I did grow up watching them because my dad really enjoyed them. So anything with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator, Predator, all of that jazz, and then the Alien franchise, he really loved. So I was probably watching these movies before it was acceptable for small children to see these movies, but I do very much enjoy them since I have been watching them since I was quite young. They don't terrify me as much as maybe they would terrify kids of the same age nowadays who didn't grow up with this kind of stuff. But I will say I have really enjoyed the majority of the franchise. Just for some context, before we jump into what the movie is and what I thought of it, I will say I did not enjoy a ton Prometheus and Covenant, but I am one of those weirdos that did enjoy Alien Resurrection. So I'm just throwing that out there so you kind of know how to gauge what I'm thinking before we jump into it. So for anyone who is not familiar with Alien Romulus, this is a whole new cast and crew. This film takes place between the first 1979 Alien and its direct sequel Aliens. So this movie is sandwiched between those. It is not sort of connected to Prometheus and Covenant as a prequel. This one is definitely happening after that first initial Alien film. Now, there are going to be some elements of this one that are definitely going to call back to that first, but we have, for the most part, an entirely new cast in Alien Romulus. We follow a new group of people who are really kind of colonizers. They are on a particular mining colony in outer space, and essentially they work for the Wayland Company as miners, but there seems to be some sort of indentured nature to their sort of being there, and it is in pretty much all of their minds that they no longer want to be on this planet, but the company is not going to furnish them with all of the things that they need in order to leave. So they come across or discover, I guess, a Wayland derelict ship that they want to go visit. Now, the details are a little bit fuzzy as to how they have a ship of their own in order to get there, but that's some of the stuff that we will talk about a little bit later in the review. So essentially, they go up to this derelict ship. Of course, in true alien fashion, they discover that this derelict ship is not the derelict ship that they think it is, and horror ensues. So, as far as what I felt about Alien Romulus, I will say there were some standout characters in this one for sure. I think that Kaylee Spiney did an excellent job as her character Rain, but for me, David Johnson stole the show here. He plays a character named Andy in the film, and I loved him far and away above everyone else. Now, the majority of the cast that you see here, again, in true Alien fashion, they are there for a good time, not a long time. So, you don't get attached really to the majority of characters when you are going in to see an Alien movie, because we all know the majority of them are not going to live that long. Now, I will say, I think it will depend on what kind of a moviegoer you are and whether or not you will enjoy Alien Romulus. For one, if you are a giant Alien fan and you love all things Alien, you're going to feel the same way about this one as you do all of the other ones. If you are one of those types of moviegoers that just wants to have fun, wants to be entertained for a couple of hours, again, I think that Alien Romulus will be a great one. However, if you are a little bit more of a cinephile, if you are looking for better story elements, if you are looking for, a lot more unique detail and all of that kind of good stuff, I don't know that you will super love Alien Romulus. I enjoyed this one. I think that it was a lot of fun. It's not my favorite Alien movie, if I can put it that way. I will say, just in terms of how I like the films, and this might just be kind of a judge that you can go off on whether or not you should listen to my review, is I definitely like the first 3 films. I think Aliens, the second one, is my absolute favorite, then probably the first, then the third, and again, I like Alien Resurrection, and then I would sort of put all the rest of the stuff together at the end. Prometheus, Covenant, Alien versus Predator. I don't necessarily enjoy those ones a ton, but I will watch them. I do still get enjoyment out of them. For me, Romulus would probably fit right after Alien 3 and before and or tied with Alien Resurrection. To me, in my mind, there are a lot of very similar elements between Alien Resurrection and Alien Romulus. There are a lot of sort of similar aspects that we see in both films. So if you did not like Resurrection, there is a chance that you may not wholly enjoy Alien Romulus. And I think that that really kind of is what took this movie down a few notches for me. Like I mentioned sort of earlier in the review, they don't go into a heck of a lot of detail on how this group of characters has access to this Wayland ship that like gets them up into outer space to find that derelict vessel in the first place. It doesn't go into too much detail about how they have that, because to me, their characters are sort of portrayed as these sort of like slaves to the Wayland company. They don't have the means or the money to furnish their own ride, out to where they are looking to go. And so that's kind of how the story gets started in the first place. And that to me wasn't necessarily all that clear in terms of how they even have what they do have in order for the story to get started. On top of that, again, like I said, there are a lot of elements in Romulus that we have seen in a lot of the other movies before, in Resurrection, in, some of the prior movies. So there isn't a ton unique happening in Romulus that would have just like driven it over the top for me. I think there are a lot of really, really cool sequences and really, really cool things that they do with this movie. But in terms of like, is it fresh? Is it something that we haven't seen before? I don't think so. I think that this one does fall in line with a lot of the other films, and I think it's a good addition, but it's not my favorite, and I didn't walk out like completely in love with it in terms of these films. I think it's great. I do want to add it to like my box set and watch them in order, have maybe some of those movie nights. Like I am the type of crazy person that will sit down and watch the Lord of the Rings extended editions for like 4 days straight. And Alien for me is the same. So if they do release like a new box set or something that has Romulus in it, I would still splurge for that. I would still get it. But this one, again, not my favorite. Probably wouldn't put it up there. To me, it does not compete with like my favorite one, which was the second Aliens. So I did like it. I thought it was a good time, but I didn't, again, think it was like one of the best ones or the most unique one that we have gotten so far. So those are my thoughts on Alien Romulus. I would love to know what you guys thought if you have seen this one. Subscribe to join the Movie Nerd family, and I hope to see you in the next episode.